Jaime Yamanaka, thank you so much for being here. How you doing, man?
My friend, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. So honored. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the time and appreciate all the information that you care to share about the martial arts. So it's an honor to be here.
Oh, it's an honor to have you, man. So before we begin, for the world, for those who don't know who you are, if you can quickly introduce yourself, your name, who you are, and where to find you online.
Sounds great. So my name is Jaime Yamanaka. My students call me Sensei. I run programs for women, for youth, for everybody, really kind of teaching the principles of traditional martial arts, strength, resiliency, inner self-awareness, meditation. You can find me on social media at JamieLynn00.
So what brought me to you, a couple of people actually, a shout out to Renche Scott Taylor. He's a mutual friend of ours. He's just like the best. You know, he's such a lovely guy.
And such a great martial artist.
Yeah, man. Like we were training not too long ago, and did some filming too. And we just one thing led to another. And he said to me, he says, "Listen, what you're doing is very similar. I think you'd be very compatible to talk to this lady by the name of Jaime Yamanaka." And I said, "Jaime Yamanaka." I go, Yamanaka, is that related to Ron Yamanaka? And he's going, yeah, man, that's his daughter. And I'm going, oh my goodness. I'm going, Ron Yamanaka. He's like for those of you guys who don't know who Ron Yamanaka is, guys, Ron is the OG in the Canadian martial arts circuit. Okay. Jamie will talk more about her dad. But from my point of view, Ron, I think, he was like the grassroots of karate way back in the 60s and 70s. I trained at with Kwai Wang originally, and Kwai told me about Ram Yamanaka. They were both developing their schools in parallel. And then when I trained with Vic Arnold, Jamie, I think I told you about that. Vic was certified in the Akikempo organization. I think he got some rankings through there, and I think they co-taught, or they either they co-taught or he had classes in there or something, but there was that's the connection right there. So, and now we're here. So I am so happy. I'm so happy.
I love that. And it's so cool because as I've started to come out a little bit more into the martial arts, I mean, it's really a testimony to how your legacy of teaching lives on. What you teach today goes on and passes on through students. So teach, like if you're a teacher, teach, get your word out, get your message out, teach what you have, because it will continue to spread. And I think that's a real testimony. And I'm honored that you have heard of my father and speak so highly of him, because growing up, he was both my father and my sensei. And that was a challenge. But growing up, I got to experience, literally growing up inside of a dojo where we got to meet amazing martial artists, where people come in and train hard. Like people in the 70s and 80s, it was rough. I remember watching people train, and people would just be bloody and broken. And it was the time of real hard training. So
100%.
It's amazing to see how your training is kind of like the legacy of that, and it continues on. And it's just beautiful to know that, what we do today continues to be passed on. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, thanks to the forefathers, like your father, Kwai Wang, Vic Arnold, Chuck Hassan. I think a lot of these names. I mean, there's the Canadian martial art community is amazing, man.
It really is incredible. And your message, it's funny because your message, one of Karate Unity, is one that my sensei had so long ago. He started federations, to help unite martial artists across different styles. Yeah. Because there are great teachers and there's great things you learned across different styles, but the challenge has always been in finding those people, finding the authentic teachers, finding the ones who are truly dedicated to their arts, truly certified through knowledgeable lineages in order to continue to spread that message. So when I actually shared with him about your work, he was like, oh, that resonated very deeply with him, because that was what his purpose always was.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it's a noble cause but
Mhm.
I tell you, it's a very tough thing to do. I'm having a lot of struggles, you know, and it's been the ongoing struggle of, I think, every martial artist. You know, we try to
Mhm.
reach out, we try to unite. And to me, it's a
Mhm.
very obvious thing to do, because as long as we have two arms and two legs, biomechanically,
Yeah.
we're gonna have the same thing. I mean, it's like food, man. If I go to Italy, noodles are pasta. Okay,
Yeah.
that's starchy legume thing. If I go to Japan, it's udon. If I go
Mhm.
to the Philippines, it's pancit. I mean, we're all eating noodles, right? So it's like a punch
I
is a
love
punch, a
noodles.
block's a block, and we just
Uh-huh.
call it different names. And you know, it's taken me a long time to realize that, but now I'm preaching that, and
Beautiful.
it's been good in terms of like I'm really blessed to, you know, meet people like you and Scott and a whole bunch of names. You know, this is your podcast, so I don't want to ruin it by all these names, but there's just so many people that do have the same mission, and we just
Mhm.
need to keeping them together
Mhm.
and keep inviting others into this circle, because that's the only way to grow, you know.
I love that. And if anyone's listening to this and you are like a first timer into the martial arts, you know, just kind of dipping your feet, trying to understand what it is, what it looks like, that really is the heart of what martial arts is. It's this brotherhood, it's a fraternity, it's closer than just people that you work out with. And within our federation, so my father, I'm going to refer to him as my sensei because that's the context here, but my sensei started a federation called the YKKF, the World
Yes, I remember
Jiu
that.
Jitsu Karate Do Federation. Yeah, we had amazing events, and I'm going to help bring some of those back, uniting top martial artists and some of the greatest teachers around, just kind of bringing them all together. But he always had a mantra, which was courage, fraternity, right, and wisdom. Those three things, you know, bringing people together, understanding that it's a brotherhood, knowing that we have to step into courage. It takes courage. It takes a lot of balls to, you know, put down your hands, put down your weapon when you're mad, right?
Yep.
It takes a lot of courage to diffuse a situation. It takes courage to step into a fight, you know, and it takes the wisdom to understand the difference between both of them.
Love that. I love that. I love those three words, man. The fraternity, the courage. What was the other one?
Wisdom.
Wisdom. Yeah, I love that. And they're all glue for each other. They all bring each other and keep cohesion. I mean, it's great. I love it. The thing is, it's a struggle for me. It's not easy, right? I try to, I don't know what your experience is like, but in seminars, you know, you find people like to stick with their own style system. It's really hard. Like, for example, lately it's been good because, like I said, I've been kind of handpicking who I want to be, who I want to train with, and vice versa. And you know, it's working. So, for example, like a typical seminar that I'd host or a training group would consist of like all kinds of people. We'd have a JKD players, boxers, Muay Thai people, karatekas, judo people, you know, and they would all be in one room. And these people we'd be sharing. We'd be sharing our ideas and stuff like that. And it's funny because the judoka would do a throw and we would say, hey, we have that throw too. Or a Filipino guy would do a hand trap and I go, hey, we have that in kata. You know, and then genuinely they'd want to know. They just show me where that is in the kata. And like the whole training session is about, oh, I like that. Show me that. You know, and I find that's missing in the martial art world, and we need to keep going.
I love that. What you touched on there, for anybody who's listening and maybe has only trained one style before, what Chris is really hitting on here is like searching for the truth within the movement, right? Being able to share it and like searching for the truth. It's like, okay, this is what I know this move to mean. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? Oh, okay, gotcha. What can I learn about this deeper, right? And that's always been instilled in me because my sensei, he started out in Kung Fu. He started training Kung Fu when he was 16. Actually, I think he was probably even 15 because he told the story about how he used to sneak out of his mom's house, take the bus, you know, an hour one way just to go find his Sifu, who was Sigong David Chong, and Big Dave, who brought, so they helped to bring Kung Fu to Canada.
He had his club in Spadina, I think, right?
You got it. Yeah, you got it. That's it. Yeah. And my dad at the time was living up more further north, closer to like Yorkdale, where that
Is he still
that kind
alive?
of like
Is David Chong
Dufferin
alive
area.
still?
He is, yeah. I just saw
Okay.
him a couple of weeks ago. Amazing guy.
He's a black belt Hall of Famer, I think, right?
Black belt Hall of Famer, like
Yeah.
one of the most incredible. Like led the Canadian Karate Kung Fu Association, CKKA.
Right.
Yeah, and they do great things. They do great work. And so he started out training Kung Fu back in the day with Sigung David Chong, who just came over for lunch a couple of weeks ago. Still so humble, so kind, and so generous. Like when we talk about humility in the martial arts, my sensei always references Sigung David Chong and his other sensei, who is Sensei Ichi Miyazato from Okinawa. He said, when I met these two men, I understood what humility was, and I understood what gentleness in the martial arts looked like.
Yes.
Because he started out training Kung Fu, and then he went into, because Sigung David Chong, they were the first club to actually start inviting in white people, because it was the 70s. You only taught Kung Fu to Chinese people. That was how it was. And they were like
the whole Bruce Lee thing, right?
Community. That's it. Yeah. Pre-Bruce Lee, like these guys were doing it. Like total honor to them for it, because they understood. They're like, no, this is an art. We got to share it. We've got to teach it. They're the first. They started inviting in white people and black people of all different ethnicities and races. Man. And so they were disgraced from their community because of what they were doing. So they started to call it karate. And then my sensei got into Kempo karate and started training with Shintani sensei. And that was for a lot of his life. He trained with Shintani sensei, but he continued to search for the truth of martial arts and continue to search. And so we'd meet different senseis. And because of his skill level, he had an incredible skill level. People wanted him to represent their art. Come, I'll teach you this style. Come, I'll teach you this style. Come, you can represent us here. And he would always wait to see who a person was as a teacher and wait to understand what is the truth of their martial arts before he would ever take on anything. When I was growing up, you know, my sensei started a dojo. They were out on Kennedy Road back in the 80s, and, you know, continue to evolve. And there are so many great people who passed the doors, wonderful senseis who, you know, trained and taught and that were brought up in the martial arts. And I was so grateful to be exposed to that, because it was about that time in the 80s. Yeah, it was in the 80s, when my sensei went over to Okinawa and had an introduction to the Jundokan and to Sensei Ichi Miyazato, who welcomed him with open arms. And that's when he started to train and understand Goju. And he actually switched styles. He made a massive shift. He was doing Kempo karate. He was doing other styles. And when he learned about Okinawan Goju Ryu, he saw that there was movement from Kung Fu. And he understood that they were honoring where martial arts comes from, which is from China. All martial arts came from China, right? Everything started over there with Kung Fu. And he saw that the movement honored that. And he was just like, his mind was blown. He's like, this is it. This is the style. And he just went and he dedicated his life to bring that back. And I really, one thing that I really respect and commend about my sensei is that helped him seeing the gentleness in teachers helped him shift, because he was a hard ass. Anybody who ever trained with him back in the 90s or the 80s, they will say that he was not exactly the nicest. He could be pretty rough.
Yeah.
Never minced words. You know, his fist was as sharp as his tongue.
Oh yeah, I know. It's funny how teachers would discipline their martial art teachers would discipline their kids and their students back in the day. We would use the shinai. We would get shinais everywhere. You know, if you couldn't punch properly, you'd get shinais across your knuckles, man. And I remember going home like in tears, right? And my dad just says, "That's karate, man."
That's funny. That's funny.
Karate.
And, you know, times have changed and people have changed, and that, like, watching his evolution as a sensei from my childhood to even to now, I really commend and really respect him for how he has shifted his own behavior and patterns into this gentleness, into a deeper understanding. And that has been very significant, because as we talk about martial arts, we were talking about this offline before the videos ever started recording, but I truly believe that what we teach as martial artists, it's not just how to kick and punch. You know, anybody can do that. Literally anybody can do that. What we teach is we teach resiliency. What we teach is how people can stand up after they've been knocked down. We teach people strength. We teach them inner strength, way deeper than just your body, what's here. We teach them about chi, about energy. That is beyond what is usually spoken of, and it's inherent in any martial artist who's ever trained for any length of time will tell you. If you are new to listening to this, if you're new to Sensei Chris, like, they will tell you that these are things. Your life grows as your style, as your martial arts grows. Your life grows because your understanding of the world changes. And I think that's the best part about martial arts.
Oh,
that is the best part.
I fully agree. I mean, as you're saying these things, I'm painting mental pictures and going back in time as I was growing up at, training at Wong's Karate. I mean, resilience. I mean, we didn't have any choice. As soon as we would go right to the change. My dad would drop me off when I was a kid. We'd go to the change room. I couldn't escape. I was stuck there, right? Put on my gi, bow in. We start going, and the exercises, like if you gave up on an exercise, your punishment was running, horse stance, getting wrapped with a stick. You'd spar against big, tall, hairy, fat, strong, people, purposely. The sensei would put you there just to, eat some humble pie for a bit. And then you come back and then you stop fooling around, like you learn. And, I hated sparring. But you got no choice. You essentially just literally pushes you into the fire and you got to go in. So with resiliency, how does martial arts like exemplify that? As opposed to, because I know sports do. I mean, I know a lot of people who are athletes, right? And they argue too, like, hey man, sports, martial arts, whatever, it's all under the same umbrella. You're training athletically, you got a good coach. I mean, I think they're all the same, but I think there's a difference in combat sports and martial arts.
I agree.
I can tell you my take, but I want your take. How is resilience
I totally agree.
better in the martial arts?
Resiliency is different in the martial arts. First of all, let's define resiliency. Resiliency is the ability to get back up when you've been knocked down. And the truth is that life will always try and knock you down. 100%. No matter who you are, where you are, within life, you will get knocked down. Within combat sports and within martial arts, it's different because you learn how to train for those times. You know that you're going to get hit. We don't train because we think I'm invincible, I'm never going to get hit, I'm the one doing the hitting. No, you're going to eat that humble pie that you said, and you're going to learn. We train how to deal with those circumstances. And what's really great is that when you find a great teacher, you start to learn how to be empowered to get back up instead of waiting. Because at the beginning, you learn because your sensei is telling you, like, you've got to do this. You're forced to get back up. But as you go along, you learn how to do it for yourself. That's the power of it. That way, when life hits you, you're like, oh, this is nothing. You should see when I train. You should see when I train. Oh, I got this. Okay. I'll get through it. Because you know that when you train in the martial arts, when you get hit, when something's too hard and you push through it and you reach the other side, when you train and something is challenging, you never think you're going to get it, but you do it. And then eventually you're like, oh, I actually remember this. Oh, I actually understand this. I actually did it. You surprise yourself. And that little bit of surprise brings you back. When life hits you, you're like, I've been through tough times. I've been through times when I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it. I've been through times that I was sweaty and I was exhausted and I still got back up. I can face this. I am strong. I can do this. That's the difference. That's the difference for me.
Humans are resilient. We have how can I say, we have that resilient chip in us. It just needs to be turned on. We have it. We have it. Like, I mean, look at society and look at human beings. We've evolved and we've done amazing things. technologically, socially.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
Incredible, right? Like martial arts gives you no choice but to be resilient, you know, and you need the good teachers to do that. I just to reiterate your point.
It's so true. I think that resiliency is one of the most important things. That's actually what brought me back to the martial arts in a really strong way, because I mean, I grew up with it. I trained as a kid. I was competitive in my teenage years, competed in Italy and England, went even as far to like the Maccabea Games in Israel.
Yeah.
And I competed in kata. So, I mean, it's very much an individual kind of sport that you're doing there. And then I went over to university and I went our university club there, and I took some time off. Yeah.
Since we're talking about training and martial arts, just quickly tell us about your journey in the martial arts, like what styles you started at, who were your teachers?
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yada, yada.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, my dojo, we were training, it was always 3 styles: karate, Jiu Jitsu, Kung Fu, always.
Nice.
And so when I was training, I was always being taught all of them. So I learned that karate doesn't exist without jiu-jitsu, it doesn't exist without kung fu. So you inherently learn both. So I'm not formally ranked in jiu-jitsu, I'm not formally ranked in kung fu, but I could do tiger crane or dragon for you, and I can throw and I can grapple, but never formally ranked in any of those styles. But Okinawan Goju was always my home. That's what feels like home to me.
Yeah, it's your base.
That's my base. That's my baseline. And when I teach Goju, but it's also with an understanding of both of those things.
Right. It's like a mix.
It's a mix. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not the expert in Kung Fu. I'm not the expert in Jiu Jitsu, but in Karate, I got you. But that's also why I love connecting with the right people, because I understand the value of the right teachers being able to impart that knowledge and helping to expand your mind of exactly what you were saying. So went away to university, ran the Goju club there, and then took some time off. I just needed a little bit of a break.
Was it the same club as Eugene? Was that same club? Okay.
Yeah, same club. Yeah. So took some time off, needed a little bit of break, wanted to find something for myself, explored Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a little bit, which I love.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun with that. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So much fun, and such a great sport for a smaller woman like myself to play with. I mean, you can't tell from a video screen, but I am 5 feet, 115 pounds. Like,
I'm pretty short myself too, man. I'm only 5'5".
Yeah. And in the martial arts, it doesn't matter, but
no,
I mean, it helps to know how to use your body.
Yeah.
And then, so did a little bit of BJJ, again, loved it, trained with Action Reaction, which is a great club. I mean, Fernando Gringo out there was a really amazing teacher. And then it just kind of reminded me of
was Action Reaction in Waterloo too?
No, it's in Scarborough.
Oh, in Scarborough, okay.
Yeah. And I was kind of only there for like a little bit, but I met some great people. There was somebody that I want to do a shout out to.
Yeah, man.
He runs, oh my God, Unchokeable You, which is what he calls it. And my friend out there, and so he runs this program and he teaches, like, you find these outstanding people everywhere. He runs a program for at-risk youth, teaching them Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it's something that, you know, has changed his life, because it goes back and he changes other people's lives. And I love that. I love seeing it within BJJ. I love seeing it in karate. I love seeing it everywhere. Yeah. And then kind of went through a bit of big transition in my life. I was working in corporate. My parents were always entrepreneurs. And so they told me, like, go work in corporate. It's the golden egg. It's super stable. Was working in corporate for many, many years at an accounting firm. And then went through a huge transition, left my job, like ended a relationship of 8 years, you know, moved across. I moved to England with, and then, like, it was a crazy time of my life. Yeah. And when I came back, lived there for about 3 months and came back. When I came back, my whole world was kind of shifting. Yeah. And I felt unstable. I was terrified. I didn't have the stability of work or friends. I'd gone through a huge transition that had left me, like, in a troubled place with my friends. And I really needed to figure myself out, because I was not mentally in a good place, emotionally, financially, all of those things. All of these things were bad. Yeah. And I needed to take the time and find out for myself. I'm like, okay, Jamie, you're not in a good place right now. You need to get back on your feet. How are you going to do that for yourself? And that's when I started to explore, what am I going to get rid of in my life and what am I going to keep? And I dug my heels into martial arts. Nice. And I swear to God, if it wasn't for the things that I've learned in the martial arts, including breath work, including katas like Sanshin to get out my anger. I was pissed off at this time of my life. I had a lot of anger and they needed to get out in a healthy way. Yeah. Including things like meditation. If I didn't dig my feet into those things, honest to God, it was a time in my life when I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going crazy because my life was spiraling. I was spiraling. Yeah. And excuse me, digging my heels into those things, I was so grateful. So grateful that I had that knowledge. I couldn't believe it. Like, I literally, within a year, I'd changed my life around, like totally from like, from spiraling and totally hopeless to like, okay, I feel stable and grounded. And, you know, my life is starting to turn around and everything kind of shifted for me in a positive direction. But if I didn't have what I knew from the martial arts, I honestly do not know where I would be. And that was a big wake up call for me. I was like, damn, this made a real life difference in my life outside of the dojo, outside of, you know, getting in a fight with somebody in person. I got in a fight with the universe. I got in a fight with myself and I still came out ahead. And that was a huge wake up call for me. And I was like, okay, this made such a big difference for me. I'm going to keep digging my heels. And I kept doing it. I kept training. And then one day I was, my father always taught me energy work, and he taught me how to, if you're going to learn how to hurt, you need to learn how to heal. He always taught me that. So I was giving him a treatment one day, a healing treatment, using massage. And he was like, why are your hands sweaty? I was like, my hands are sweaty. What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm giving him a massage. Like, my hands are sweaty. And he was like, your hands are sweaty. I was like, they're not sweaty. Like, oh my gosh. I'm just like passing this off. And he stops me. And he goes, no, listen. If your chi is flowing, your hands are hot. If you are not flowing your energy, you're unhealthy and your hands will be sticky. And I was like, oh, damn. He's teaching me a lesson here. And he said,
he went Mr. Miyagi on you there for a second.
He went Mr. Miyagi on me. He did. From like a moment where I'm like, come on, like, oh my gosh. He totally switched it. And in that moment, I was like, oh, damn, he's right. And then he said to me, he's like, have I not taught you King breathing? And I was like, I don't think so. And he said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry, I've never taught that to you. And I had to apologize. And I was like, it was never the time for me. Sometimes, as we know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And even though I lived and had my teacher so present to me, I wasn't ready to receive certain knowledge. And so it just never came to me. And so from that point, I really dug into the internal arts. So my sensei taught me King breathing from Kung Fu. He taught me iron palm work, which if you've never heard of it, it's basically
the conditioning.
It's more than, it's the conditioning. It's hand conditioning on a steel barbell. It includes using jiao, which is a traditional ointment for your hands. And it includes breath work for vitality and to flow your energy. And then we kept going through Kung Fu and then going through karate. And I've spent the last 2 years just training with my sensei in a whole new way than it ever meant for me when I was younger. And from that, it's just organically grown into something that has shifted in meaning for me because of how it changed my life. And it's just been continuing to grow. And now I'm, you know, I've been teaching over the pandemic and teaching one-on-one only. And now we're just about to open group programs. We're building a community. And what I love really most of all is we're building a community of women too, because I know tell us
about your services and the classes you run and all that. I'd love to know that.
I love it. I love it so much. We're building a community and we're starting with women because I'm a woman and growing up training with other women, what I always found was that there weren't a lot of them. I mean, I've trained with tons of black belts, and I'm super grateful that within our federation, there were always a couple of women. There were always women, but it was always harder to find women on a day-to-day basis to train with.
Yeah.
And I believe that as women, we've got to learn how to do some things. Like the way that a learning system is you've got to learn how to do something slowly first. You're going to suck. You're going to be bad. You're going to get it wrong. And then you get a little bit better. And then you get a little bit better. And then once you know the skill, then you start to apply intensity. Then you start to apply stress. That way you can do it in real time. That way you can do it 100%. You can do it with your eyes closed. You can do it at any time of day when you're not expecting it. You've got to build into that. But as a woman, you've also got to learn the skill before you can apply it onto like a man, a big guy, someone who's much stronger than you. That's the reality of a situation. So we're building a community of women first, because that's me. That's what I needed. And I obviously still teaching men because we've got a lot of black belts and we're still training.
Classes, how could people sign up for your classes?
That's
Where's
a great
location?
question. Awesome. I appreciate you. So right now we're building group programs in Ajax. We've got a small home dojo. So literally like a home dojo that was built by my sensei's students for him when his dojo closed down. His dojo closed down and probably 15, maybe even 20 years ago. And his student said, we can't allow that. We can't allow for you not to have a place to train. We need a place for you to teach us. So they built him a dojo at his home. So right now we're teaching under there, and we're going to continue to expand it and continuing to grow a community. So we're really just at the beginning. We are just getting started. So if you are right now, we're starting with women. If you're a woman who's never even started the martial arts, who wants to learn more about it, if you are somebody who has trained in the past, but haven't had an outlet for that in the past or right now, come on out, come find us, because we're just offering small group classes. And the intention is to build intensity, build strength, build that resiliency, build that inner awareness and self-expression, because women are fierce.
So it's a traditional Goju curriculum, or do you teach self-defense? Is there a fitness component to it? Like,
that's a great question.
What do you offer there?
So it's traditional Goju. There is a self-defense component, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've always been trained and taught. I ran a self-defense program for a couple of years, and we taught in a high school system, and we teach girls and boys. And my sensei always said, karate was built by men for men. Self-defense is not, karate is not self-defense. Self-defense needs to be built for women to defend against sexual violence, predators, assault. It's very different. Karate takes skill. Self-defense you need to be able to teach to anybody within, a day, 2 days, teaching them life-saving techniques. So yes, we teach traditional Okinawan Goju. We include a combination of a little bit of Kung Fu, a little bit of Jiu Jitsu, because that's traditional. And we also teach the self-defense component. Fitness is in there, but it's not like fitness classes. You just get fit along the way because you're working your body. But I truly believe that there is a distinction between karate and self-defense. They're different. They need to be taught differently. You can't teach a woman how to punch in a self-defense course, because one, biomechanically, even men, like even a trained martial artist, we still break our knuckles. This is not a fast enough experience for a woman to be able to be like, I'm going to punch a man and get away. That's not realistic. So let's use the biomechanics of it. Let's take a fist, turn it to the side, and turn it into a hammer fist, right? A tetsui, and let's teach them how to strike. Let's teach them where to strike on a body, because this is strong. This is biomechanically available, right? And knowing how stress affects the body. When you're in fight or flight mode, your vision narrows, right? Your auditory senses decrease. Blood rushes, you lose your fine motor function, goes to your large muscle groups. So all of your large muscle groups are working. You're moving in a brick-like way. You still got to be able to act in that situation. That's
100%. I'm glad you brought all that up. We can maybe talk a little bit about self-defense here. Like so self-defense is a beast. It's like an encyclopedia of a subject here. Like I find a lot of, so this kind of ties into honesty in the martial arts too. Like if I want to get my students up to speed on self-defense, I'm going to send them to a tactical guy. I'm going to send them to a stick,
100%.
knife, and gun guy. I'm going to send him to somebody who's got a lot of experience with law enforcement and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know, in order to keep my practice, like, for example, holistic and legit, I cross-train with all these other people. So if I don't know something, I'm going to tell them, I said, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to consult somebody on that or whatever. And, you know, like, so what's your take on
I love the honesty in that.
Yeah. Like, what's your take on teaching self-defense in a martial art curriculum?
I think people need to understand that there is a discernment, right? When we're talking about self-defense, I'm talking about women learning about how to defend themselves from sexual violence, right?
Yeah.
You know, attacks, you know, domestic violence, physical assaults, verbal assaults, the things that you hear about that you never want to actually experience in your life. You don't need a martial arts background in order to learn self-defense. You don't need to continue a martial arts background to learn self-defense. But within martial arts, you're going to learn how to defend yourself. It's just, it takes much longer, and it takes a depth of skill that is different.
Yeah.
It's very different. Like, you're learning how to fight. You're not just learning how to, in self-defense, you're learning how to defend yourself, create a window of opportunity so you can get out of there, know your legal rights, know who to talk to, know where to go.
It's like a first aid course, right? It's like a first aid course.
Everybody needs to take a self-defense. It's a first aid course. That's 100%.
The thing is, though, you need to keep practicing.
100%. You know? So if somebody is looking to integrate self-defense into their martial arts programs, I think that's great, so long as you know what you're teaching. And a couple of things that I would say, if somebody's looking to learn self-defense, a couple of things to look for is like, okay, does this person understand what a woman's experience is or female's experience is? Do they understand the biomechanics of a woman's body or a female's body to know the strength points and how we operate? Do they understand the mindset of a woman, how it's, you could learn how to kick and punch or throw a hammer fist or throw any sort of strike, but do they understand that most women don't stand up for themselves, and that they're going to be berated verbally for years and years and years, and it turns into a progression before physical violence ever comes in? And you still have to be able to stand up for yourself, even at that point when you've been mentally berated. How do you do that? I think these are all important things to look for, and make sure that your instructor is asking those questions, learning those skills, because it is a totally different skill than martial arts.
Yeah, these are great points, man.
Because when we train in martial arts, we're training for physical stuff, but part of self-defense is also understanding things like distancing.
Yeah,
you know,
awareness.
If someone's coming up to you, awareness, reading body language, being able to understand that, being able to, like, even when you're in that fight or flight mode, even when you're not even supposed to be thinking about your own personal safety, like when you're in the grocery store or something like that. Yeah. So you develop a level of self-awareness to be like, wait a second, this guy has walked down this aisle 3 times now, and he's not looking at the food. Something's up. Immediately, like, you need to check into your own level of self-awareness and be like, okay, I'm in a heightened level of state of awareness. So within our self-defense program, we teach it for girls and we teach it for boys, because everybody needs to learn, you know, everybody needs to learn. But what we call it, it's a color psychology thing. So we cue people into a level of mental awareness called red, yellow, and green. White, yellow, and red. My apologies. White is the state of, like, total no awareness. Absolutely, you feel safe. You're going to the grocery store. You're buying some eggs. You just had a great day, and you're picking up food for dinner, and you're about to come home. You have no level of awareness of what's happening around you. You're just like, you're happy. You feel safe. If something happens, if a threat happens to you right then and there, someone comes up and punches you, someone's having a bad day, someone lays a hit on you, an earthquake happens, you're going to go into total shock, and you will not be able to handle the situation because you're jumping from a level of no awareness to a level of action. So we develop the second level, which is the color yellow. Yellow means that you alert and aware. Same thing like when you're driving up to a stop sign, right? Yellow is the color of alert and aware. So Alert and aware means, okay, I'm going to walk into this grocery store. I'm still in a good space. I still feel safe, but I'm going to look around. Now, if I notice this guy's been walking down the aisle 3 times and he's not looking at food, I'm aware of this. Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm going to walk into a more populated area. Maybe I'm going to hang out by the security guard a little bit and just see where this guy goes. I'm in a yellow. I'm aware. That way, if something happens, if a threat happens, I'm prepared. I'm prepared. I'll be ready to fight if I need to. I'll be ready to flee if I need to. I'll be whatever it is. You're going to be aware. Red is the state of action. So that is where you can jump from yellow to red really simply and be able to take action. You cannot jump from white to red and be able to take action. That's where people freeze.
Yeah. That's cool, man. You see, like that kind of training needs to be as part of your curriculum, I think, if and only if you're going to market yourself as a martial arts school that offers a self-defense program, right? I think if you're going to be honest about that, I think as martial art instructors, we need to be equipped with that. I am no self-defense expert. Okay. I'm a fun-loving guy. I live in a peaceful neighborhood. I pay my taxes. I'm I'm a teacher. I haven't been raised in war-torn times.
Me neither.
Where I live, and I just mean this in an honest way. Like I live in not a low socioeconomic area. It's just the way where I live in the city, so I'm kind of sheltered in a way, you know what I mean?
I hear you.
And so my coach that teaches self-defense, I shout out to Arjan Sam Lumpini. He's he runs Lumpini Fighting Systems. Cool. I can't wait till he opens up again. I'm jonesing to go there.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he teaches a Krav Maga curriculum as part of his training, and he combines it with combat sports. So it's a really good mix. And I'm going to imitate his accent. He's kind of like he's Moroccan, and he's got this very thick accent. He's going, Chris, you Canadians, you're soft. He goes, you don't know anything. He goes, you don't know what it's like to live hard. Or something like this. He'll say like this, and he's going, you train karate and all this stuff. He goes, you haven't really experienced it. And he's got a point, man. He's got a point.
It's fair. No, you know what? I totally agree. Same thing. Like I live in the suburbs. It's pretty safe, but even still, as a woman, I have experienced, and I'll tell you a true story that happened to my sister last week. Like 11 o'clock at night on a Friday, and she's walking home. She had dinner with her girlfriends. She had a couple of drinks. She's a little tipsy, but she's not drunk. She's walking home. She lives in Toronto. And as she's walking home, some guy in a car drives by her, and she's got her earphones in, and she knows not to walk with both earphones playing music, but she's still doing it. But I love this example because she noticed that this guy was slowing down as he's driving next to her. She's like, that's weird. Why is he driving and stopping? And they stop his car. He rolls down his passenger window and he leans over and he starts to talk to her. And she turns off her music but leaves her headphones in so she can hear that he's yelling at her. But she's like, can't hear you, and just keeps walking. As she's walking, it's not a busy area. It's pretty residential and she's about to turn onto her street. She decides, no, I'm not going to turn down to my street because now this guy is slowing down. He's still driving behind her, and it's late at night. And she's like, I'm by myself. It's late at night. I'm not going to turn down my street because then he's going to know where I live. So she kept walking. She walked, and then she knows he's still following her. He followed her for like a block and a half, 2 blocks, still trying to talk to her, trying to yell at her. She's just in regular clothes, like just a regular girl. And she decides, you know what, this is not safe. He's followed me now for 2 blocks. She's taken a couple of extra, like weird, different routes, tried crossing the street. He's still there. So she's like, you know what, I'm going to go into this bar and I'm going to hang out there until he leaves. So she walks into the bar, hangs out for a second. And then she's like, okay, I think he's gone. Walks back out. This guy made a U-turn, slowed down, stopped, and was waiting for her to come out. She goes back in the bar. She's like, no, absolutely not. Tells the owner because she knows the people there. She's like, this is my situation. I'm going to stay here. They're like, that's cool. You take your time. And I was so proud of her for having that level of awareness and for taking action rather than just being like, it's nothing, no big deal. Like, it's just some guy. It'll pass. she stopped it from escalating to the next level. And like,
Smart.
I was so proud of her because there's so much, she's seen all sorts of shit and she knows how to, like, she's like, okay, this is not normal and I'm actually going to acknowledge it and I'm going to do something about it. She prevented things from getting worse by taking those actions.
Amazing.
And then she went home afterwards and she called me. She's like, can you believe this? Blah, 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 this guy, this, blah, 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 this beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
I was like,
she was
get it, girl.
unloading on you.
She's unloading. But she's a smart girl. She's a strong girl. She's like all this sort of stuff. And still these things happen all the time when you're not even expecting it. She's got a lovely evening. And she's like,
I tell you, man, that's when training kicks in, man. Like I always use Walmart as an example. Like you're going to Walmart and you've had very little sleep and you're like groggy and you got stuff in your mind. You've got a bunch of bags and you're going to your car and then shit's gonna go down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's when, like, so as I'm always looking around. Yeah, I mean that's part of my training, right? But I know enough to seek advice from professionals like my law enforcement guys, my coaches that specifically train self-defense and have had, they've worked the doors, they've lived in suspect areas when they were growing up. And so all of that informs their training, right? So I turn to those guys and they help my curriculum. When I teach defense against grabs and strikes and this and that, I'm doing it under a certain amount of assumptions here. Like the person that you're dealing with is not a gangster. The person that you're dealing with is just like
those are real situations.
Civilian kind. If you're going to teach a self-defense curriculum, though, you need to be aware of all kinds of criminal activity, right? And to me, the fight begins when it's over, because especially now, because if let's just say you knock somebody out and this and that, there's the whole legal piece involved.
100%.
And that's the yin yang. Like that's 50% now. Now you got to know how to deal with lawyers, and you got to deal with, how are you going to argue all of this, and the after effects. Like people now are cowards, man. They'll come and get you, and my a couple of my good friends said, listen, you just got to be the best you can be. Be a good person, be aware, train hard, and, hope for the best. Right. But just know that if somebody does want you, they'll get you. Right. Like, think about it. I'm sleeping. Like I don't have my house is not locked up like Fort Knox. Okay. I don't have 50 million cameras. I don't have laser guns. I don't have, traps,
you're not psychotic.
Yeah. Like I just live in a normal place. Right. If someone wants me in my sleep, they'll get me. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's the thing, right? As martial artists, we train for all different circumstances. Yeah. And self-awareness means that if you felt like you did something really, really bad to warrant somebody coming at you in the night, or you should really be threatened for your life, you would take action towards that. Yeah. I truly believe that you to protect your family, you would do whatever it takes.
100%.
If you knew that was the level of threat that you were dealing with, you would take, the actions necessary actions. Yeah. But it's just not necessary, and you're not neurotic. So I mean, no, I'm not. I think a lot of people misconstrue martial arts with like, oh, so that means you know how to do flying kicks and you've got laser guns out of your house and you're preparing for wars. Like, no, I'm preparing for the battles that come every day.
Yeah, I love that. And you prepare for the daily battles, and you're also kind of mitigating some risk.
100%. Well said.
That's it. You're 100%. Mitigating some risk. Like, I mean, the fact that we train so rigorously every day. We have coaches. We associate ourselves with like-minded individuals who push, who care about their thinking and the way they look and the way they act towards others and all that stuff. I mean, right there, just that alone, default, you're automatically a better person, right? So totally. You don't need to fight, right? Like fighting is the physical confrontation is the lowest on the totem pole of
Well said.
of things, you know? And
Really
so
well said.
there's all these layers. Like when we're training, like I find like combat sport athletes, sport athletes, people who play like, you know, professional and amateur sports, all these people who are involved in high octane athletic endeavors, you know, they're pretty chill cucumbers, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody listening, Chris just dropped a total gold nugget there that I really want to highlight and acknowledge. You said that like fighting, like the actual combat of it is lowest on the totem pole. Like when you really have the strength and you really know what a fight looks like, and when you really know that you can trust in yourself, you want to de-escalate. You don't even want, you want to use your knowledge and your strength for peace, to protect the peace, not to start fights. Not because you think you need to be the biggest, you know, loudest person on the block. When you really have that skill, it's like you do not want to use it because you know the power of it. That's a gold nugget. That is a gold nugget you just dropped.
Thanks, man. It's just a reality though. I want to tell you, man, I've been training in almost 40, a little over 40 years. I hate fighting. Fighting is the most dumbest thing ever. I mean, in what's it well, if you're going to be training and sparring and all that stuff and competing and all that, it's great. But even when I'm doing that, like I did a little bit of that when I was younger, and I kind of have my regrets. I kind of wish I went into the full contact tournament circuit and all that kind of stuff. So when I speak to my guests and things like that, and these guys are like fighters and this and that, I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, you know. But I'm in my 50s now. I think that window of time is gone, you know. But
I hear you. Yeah.
You messaged me earlier saying that martial arts is a lifelong activity.
100%.
What's your
well said.
What's your experience with that in terms of the community aspect? And
such a great question.
You know,
such a great question. And I love what your friend said about he doesn't like fighting, but he loves the training. I think that's the mark of somebody who like he does what he has to do. But and I totally resonate with that. I think martial arts is one of those few activities that you can really practice your whole life. Like a lot of people get introduced to it as kids because it's a great way for kids to learn discipline and self-awareness and respect. And you know, there aren't a ton of options for kids when you're trying to learn those sort of things. But to watch as it grows and the meaning of things develop, like in your teens, it could mean friendship and learning how to defend yourself. As an adult, it means increased self-awareness. It means mobility. It means community. It means knowing how to use your body for vitality. It means learning tools so that way when you're older, you've got these skills.
Yeah.
I think that martial arts is one of those really, really few activities that you can practice until you're in your 90s.
Your whole life.
Oh, your whole life.
Yeah.
And still get so much out of it. I think it's truly incredible.
Yeah. It's like an ocean, right? It's so vast. Like you can escape in the history of it. You can get involved in just the training. And then in the training part, you've got all these aspects. Like you can like just delve into forms and katas, drills. You can, you know, specialize in the sparring, weapons, forms, all these things. It's amazing, man. It's never ending.
I love it.
It's never ending. Like I've gotten to the point now where, you know, for me, the only way for me to make sense of the word karate for me is the kanji, open, empty hand, right? And to me, it's a metaphor. Like it's the empty hand is the vessel, right? So any martial art, any idea, any kind of concept will come through my hands, right? And it'll go to my heart, right? And I'll learn it, right? And then my hands are open again, right? And you know what I mean? So my expression of karate would be like I got boxing in there, Muay Thai in there, I got some Kung Fu in there, I got Jiu Jitsu in there. Like, you know what I mean? It's just martial arts at the end of the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
for me, right?
Your students are lucky to learn from you.
Oh, and yours as well. I'm gonna make some noise about your club. I'm gonna get people
Thank you.
to come over there. Let's talk about cut and cake with samurai swords at martial art clubs.
I feel like that's a whole other conversation.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm cutting the cake.
You know what? I think that might be a whole other series.
Another podcast. I know.
A whole other podcast.
I know.
It's funny because I believe that martial artists who run a dojo, I believe that there's abundance for everybody, and that running a business doesn't mean that you have to sell yourself out for nothing. I think that, teaching martial arts doesn't mean you have to be broke and unhappy and just give of yourself all the time. I believe that there's a profitable business in there for all of us. And if that means running birthday parties, that's great. If that means creating themed events, that's great. I think if that means running summer camps, of course, these are smart things that add tons of value to your students. To them. We were talking about this before. I have a problem with dojos that kind of just are factory churners of kids that just kind of throw belts on them and don't teach them anything. And what's worse than that is they pretend like they're teaching you, good karate or good self-defense. I have no problem with a McDojo, just call a spade. If you're going to be a factory to help kids just be physically active and it's just a form of fitness, just be transparent about that. That's totally cool. But don't pretend like you're teaching somebody good self-defense or good form or good anything. And so you're just straight up lying to them. You're just a factory turning out black belts at 13.
that goes with anything though, legitimacy and honesty in business, it's important. Like if I'm gonna sell you an apple, it's gonna have the brand on it. It's not gonna be a knockoff. It's clearly gonna be an apple. But there are some countries that I'm not gonna mention anything that will put on this, and it'll be it'll be something else on the inside.
Pear. Apple.
It's a pear.
Pear. Selling you a pear.
It's a pomegranate. Sorry, I just have to say something. It's funny, every time I talk to martial art guys and girls, whenever we say the word karate, it's automatically we end up being Miyagi. It's all of a sudden we're saying karate, and then we're back to our normal conversations. I catch myself doing that too. Sometimes I'm saying karate, and then I'm back to normal again, or then I'll say karate.
Yeah, I don't get that bad. Karate.
So Jaime, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor having you.
Total pleasure.
And for just for the record, where can people find you?
Right now, they can find me on Instagram at JamieLynn00. We'll figure out the rest as we go. But Sensei Chris, thank you so much for all that you do for martial artists, for the styles, for bringing us all together. I really appreciate it. You are a gem, and you've got some great ethics and great qualities. And I'm so happy that you have this platform. So if you're listening in, guys, please subscribe, follow, like, share all of this content, because there are a lot of gold nuggets in here.
And before we go, if you were to give the world some Jaime Yamanaka advice, what would that be?
Today, take a moment, just one moment, to sit down in a quiet space and listen to yourself and then authentically express it. And if you need to get out some anger, if you need to get out some sadness, if you need to get out some fear, if you need to get out something, find the right channel and find a martial artist.
Yep.
Find a way to do it.
Train with Jaime. In Ajax.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.